Intelligence, intuition, and delight are our birthright. So I did, reflection, feeling around inside, see if we have full consent on all levels to share what brought on that little bit. When I looked within, I was shown what my upper heavens look like. So the forefront of my mind, my personality, what I've developed was shown to me as a masculine figure. From outside of that, from within that, came a feminine figure, and from out of that came a small childlike energy. So we have our intelligence, our intuition, and our delight. When I went inside, down deep, it had been hidden to me from a long time, and from a long time ago. So what I was shown was a very indigenous looking female figure kneeling down. So all I saw was her back. And then from out of her, what faced me was a young male figure. And what they were concealing and protecting was a very iridescent child in a very iridescent looking environment. And I'm sharing this so that when you go within, if you see these things, if you get these sentiments, these feelings, these projections, when you go deep, it's not the end of the story. It's not how it's going to remain, because you're going to form relationships and trust and develop those aspects of yourself as well. So of course, when I first got down deep in there, it was, how dare you be here? You have no right to be here. Always trying to diffuse, deflect, escape my attention, the conscious attention. And when it was finally revealed to me that iridescent child was a very sadistic child, it got its delight by causing hurt and pain to me. So when I speak about those aspects, like my masculine aspect had disembodied because there's no room within me for it, and then it would possess people outside of me to attack me. And same thing with, the feminine aspect that would have been repressed. And so instead of just turning it out and sabotaging the conscience and physical state of being and my circumstances, now we're all within, all available to one another in a good way. And it's really warm and delightful, and get a sense of shyness too, because this is all new. But it's not a shyness of fear, it's a shyness of excitement and delight. Like, what kind of surprises do we have out here? To trace to break the cycle of abuse, to trace where it came from, how it arrived into my experience. It led me to that which calls itself God. I think we might be running out of power here on this thing. Nope, I'm just losing some color, or changing color. Well, my energy's changing, so yeah, that makes sense. Especially electronic equipment's going to fluctuate with my energy. So I had to go back to the origins of this abuse. Pull it out by its root. Pull the abuse out by the root. The abuse out by its root. So you go back and, the God of the Bible, pretty, narcissistic dude there. But then to reach those origins, you have to go through the primitive gods and goddesses. And I knew the primordial were coming, and I wasn't, sure what to expect. What I did not expect was to have to become familiar with and embody what came before, where the primordial came from. So as I went through, of course, I had to become acquainted with the experience of being what they call a caveman, and that frontal lobe being so large. And that's just all of this back here that is the subconscious, and these aspects, this condensed light, that was all at the forefront of their mind. And you don't need language. You make sounds for punctuation, because you're conveying images when you're speaking, and everybody else is able to receive those images. So when you're sharing a story, you're like, oh, and you're making the emotional noises like woo, woo. So it's very much like the movie The Fifth Element, when she first awakens, and it sounds like a bunch of gibberish. It's not supposed to make sense. The sounds are not forming words, they're conveying emotions and responses. And that's really what sound is for, that comes out of our mouth. We shouldn't have to communicate ideas. And just because we don't have that full frontal lobe, just because it's not at the forefront of our mind, it doesn't mean that we can't receive the images. We just might have to daze over and not see our physical reality, be absorbing and focusing on that in order to receive. We can still do what they did. We can still be what they were. Minimum amount of energy to convey what we want to convey. But that's all. The no need for sound, for speaking, because everything is already understood. For example, in Indigenous American language, they would say, it's not a tree, it's being a tree, being a lake, being a mountain. They didn't say what was being a lake, because Creator, everybody already knew. They already saw, this is Creator being a tree, this is Creator being a lake, this is Creator being a mountain. So they didn't have to say that was unnecessary. And so that's where we get confused in cultures, because they just cut to the chase. And us Western American raised people don't understand that that's all taken for granted. Like some indigenous cultures, they don't have a word for thank you, because appreciation is seen, it's felt, it's understood. We don't expect somebody not to appreciate something. There's appreciation interwoven into everything. They can appreciate everything, because nothing is good or evil. It all just is. It's just what purposes it's serving now. So we can appreciate absolutely anything and everything. And the important part of how we use our voice, and that we use our voice, for example, last video I spoke about how I'm going to be doing this instead of in writing like I used to. I'm going to be doing this by video, because the voice carries different vibrations on different levels. I can say hello, and your ears are registering a certain tone, a certain voice, and a certain maybe emotion and feeling. But it's also ringing bells on other levels and causing reactions and responses all around besides that. And maybe when you heard that, it sounds like another energy, because what's around you is riding in with it. So I'm not necessarily channeling your grandmother or your favorite spirit guide, but as my hello comes to you, they can come in and use that vibration. They can include their energy in that vibration. And the reason that we want to use our own voice to speak and to talk is because our voice box, our vocal cords are unique to us. Our voices are unique to us because they help heal. We heal with sound. We create with sound. And so our voice and using it to serve our intentions and purposes is very important. Just like you speak your reality into being. And then comes to mind children when they're putting themselves to sleep. They're humming, they're making noises. They're using their voice to heal themselves, to get themselves prepared for sleep. And the reason why children like to be read bedtime stories by their caregivers, it isn't always because the story is so exciting. Of course, they're going to choose stories that they like. But when the caregiver reads a book and tries to emulate the characters and the voices of those characters, they're stepping outside of themselves, and they're letting go of, okay, parents who don't do bedtime stories, who don't do bedtime prayers, who don't have any bedtime rituals, no communication before the child goes to sleep. It's just, hey, it's good night. While they're saying that, or even if they're tucking their kid in with like, okay, don't forget tomorrow you got to do this and this and this, and they're bringing all their subconscious energy, all that loop, the self-talk is what's on the forefront of that caregiver's mind. And so if the child says, read me a story, it's because they want all that forefront of you to stop weighing down on them. And you release yourself when you're a caregiver, you forget, and then you go into the story and you're emulating that story. And so the child is relieved of all your heavy, burdensome energy. So voice and the birthright of the intelligence, the intuition,